Hey, this is Craig Z. List, referee, manager, sometimes wrestler, pretty much anything that you want to do in the business I've done or will do. And I am on the 3 Count podcast.
I'm in fashion, roll with cold passion.
Welcome everybody to another great edition of the 3 Count podcast presents Now Into the Ring, and I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up this mountain called wrestling. That's right. You should be calling me your shirt there, done that, and can do it more efficiently than you can. And that's why it's never about me. It's about who's entering the ring. And who's entering the ring today? You can find this man at IWA Vintage Pro Wrestling. You can find him at DCW, UWC, Totem, Pizza Party Pro. He is a referee, a manager, and a wrestler. He does whatever you need him to do in the business. But more importantly, he is featured on this title card with his name pretty large size. I'm not just going to lie about it.
Big.
But he is the man, the myth, the legend, Craig Z. List.
You got that right about the legend part. Legend in my own mind, legend in my own time. That's right.
Yo, thank you for coming on the show.
Well, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Oh yeah, I was definitely excited. We got to meet each other. We've actually kind of met each other a couple times, just kind of like backstage. But then, like a few weeks ago, we actually got to work together, and I was just enamored with like the way you're able to like take an idea and mold it and like bend it so it just like fit perfectly into a structure. And I was like, this is awesome. I can't believe we get to work together.
Well, thank you. That's very kind of you. I just do what I do to make the most out of anyone I work with. I want to make them look good, me look good. I want everyone to look good in the match so that it benefits everyone in the matches, and that benefits the company. So it's all cyclical.
Yeah, definitely. And I felt when I was getting to talk with you and Dave Dahl, like I got really comfortable, and I was just like, all right, cool. Like I know, because I already knew that I was already gonna be in good hands, but just knowing that I was like, yo, like I was just there, and I got to experience like what it is to be around a lot of people with a lot of great minds. It was just so much fun to be able to pick people's brains and just kind of like learn really quick. And like even like we were joking back and forth about the rule book, and I was just I found it to be such a fun thing to be able to just kind of like talk about back and forth.
Yeah, that just kind of happened. It just kind of WWE actually put out a book of rules, and I ordered it because I'm a huge mark for stuff like this. And I looked at it, and it was just like all BS, and there's a few rules in there, but there's like supposedly scribbles and stuff in there, and I'm like, I can use this. So I just put IWA Book of Wrestling on there, and I used it for that, and it gets over really well.
I really did like it. Because even like in the back while we were talking and stuff like that, there was a part where you're like, yeah, I'll do this. And I'd be like, yeah, I could just point and be like, this is the wrong rule book. You're like, no, it's not.
Oh, yeah. It's good to have fun. And I really like working with Dave Dahl, honestly, because he's the most branded guy that I've known. I mean, he's like his own brand, and he's sponsored, and he's got all this stuff, and God bless him, you know?
Yeah, he is definitely like very like, it is cool too, because the ideas that he comes out with, right, and the things that he can do, like especially with his brand, right, because My House Sports Entertainment, like that's his big sponsorship. He was running out there with the flags, and just like,
oh, dude, I love that. That was so much fun.
I saw it, and I was like, that's definitely a very college atmosphere, like, and I was like, I'm all about this.
Oh yeah. And
so,
as long
go ahead.
I was gonna say, as long as it pisses the fans off, I'm all for
it. So, just for our listeners and our viewers who may not know who you are, who is Craig Z. List?
How could you not know who I am? I'm Craig Z. List, manager extraordinaire. No, I mean, I've been doing something in the business in some way, shape, or form since like 1995. Like I used to be a ringside photographer, and I did that for 15 years. And I actually, not too many people know this part, I was a freelance photographer / I guess interviewer for this magazine called New Wave Wrestling. So I got to meet and interview various people. My top interviews were Bobby Heenan, Mae Young, and the Road Warriors. They got to see print. Very cool. Very cool. and I did photography for about 15 years. And then I kind of got bored of that. I'm like, and I wanted to do something else. And at the same time, Zach Connor, the booker at DCW, came up with this great idea because he saw my passion for the business. He's like, let's do this thing where it's this opening for a referee came up. Let's do this thing where the ref takes a bump and I call on you to come in the ring and finish the match. I'm like, okay, this has never been done before. So, okay, ref takes a bump and Zach gestures to me. So I give someone my camera, put on the ref's disgustingly sweaty shirt and finish the last like 2 minutes of it. And it just started my referee career from there. I just recently celebrated my 11-year wrestleversary a couple of months ago.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool. And that's like what like people talk about with like opportunities that pop up in like the wrestling business is like, don't ever say no, because you never know what's going to pop up, and just run with it, whatever may come with it.
Yeah, I never in my wildest dreams thought it would go that far. And then I refereed for a couple years, and then, you know, they did the evil ref heel turn thing like with Danny Davis, and I turned into a manager, which again, I never thought I did because I always thought I was a nice guy, but apparently people hate my guts. So it's good that people hate my guts. I was able to turn that to my advantage, and I love managing. It's so much fun. And I'm actually getting a stable in IWA, which is like really, really cool. I've never had like a stable before. I've managed like 1 or 2 people, but I'm getting like a group of people together, which is really cool. And it's so much fun pissing the fans off, having them yell at me, and I get to yell back at them and say, you suck, and blah, 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 and say all the things that I can't say in real life. I can say to them in my persona, like, I hate your guts. And, you know, to the kids, I say I stay up as late as I want to, and I have every video game that you don't have and stuff like that. So anything that pisses them off, I just yell at them.
Yeah. I can only imagine, like, because it's funny because like I do love seeing people who are like really good heels that can just like bring like a lot of heat, because obviously like as a baby face, your job is to connect with the fans and you know, really get them on your side. And I see a lot of people like not able to connect with the fans as far as the baby face. So like heels like really have to draw like a lot of heat so they can, you know, make the baby face look really good. But it's always nice to see like a manager and then like you know, and a heel that can work together that can draw like so much more heat. And then if a baby face is decent at his job, you know, they can get the crowd to even bring on more heat to those people as well.
Yeah, it's good to have good chemistry between the face and the heel. And when you work together enough times, you just instantly like feel it. And I just try to, it's tough when you're a manager sometimes to know when to pick and choose your spots in terms of like when to piss off the crowd, because you don't want to take away from the action in the ring, because you're like the salad dressing of the match. You know, it's like you're not the main course. You just want to take any heat that gets on you and transfer it to your guy. So if you piss off the crowd, you want that heat to be transferred onto your guy so that they're pissed off at him. And so therefore, whenever they see me, they get mad at my guy, for example.
Yeah, I do like that. And it is a fine line, just like with managers, like being able to like be there without taking too much of the action away and causing too much trouble. And I definitely give I give so much appreciation to managers who can do that. But I'm just kind of curious, like when you're walking that line and trying to pick your spots, like how can you tell like, hey, oh, this will be a good spot, this would be a good time to jump in here and do something?
Like right after, there's 2 really good times I can think of. The number one time, rest hold. Whenever they're in a rest hold, I try to get the crowd into it and whatever, because then they're not moving. I'm like, yeah, there's your hero now, and get them to say, don't chant for the face, and then they chant for the face. Or like right after my guy lands a powerful move, I'm like, yeah, that's it. Match is over. We got this, you know, something like that. So, and then other times it's just instinct when you think it'll be a good move. Like if he says something to you, you react to him, or if the face says something to me, I react to him, you know, like that. Or sometimes if the crowd says something, like there's this one guy at IWA who really gets on my nerves. I think his name's Tim, and he gets on me. I try to give him as much attention as possible so that he can help rile the crowd up. See, if you find someone that really hates your guts or that really reacts, play to that guy, play to that crowd, that section, and then hopefully spread to the rest of the fans. That's what I hope to do too.
I definitely, the first time I was at IWA, I got to wrestle Prince Machiavelli, which is like one of my really good friends, and it was a lot of fun. And we definitely noticed that right away, that there was like a group of kids that were on a baseball team that were just sitting in the crowd, and like they were just like, they were kind of getting into it. So like I picked one kid out and I just started talking to that kid, and then all the friends got involved, and then we felt like, Prince and I talk about it, we felt like the kids were getting involved, and then like all of a sudden, like there's like a group of people that were right next to them, they started getting involved, and then we could feel the whole, like everybody around, it's like a giant circle was like getting involved into it. So by the time that the match ended, they all like popped and they were like, oh my God, this is so great. And then, you know, we rolled out, and you know, I got to hang out with the kids for a little bit longer and cheer with them and stuff, and they were super excited, and then we kept it moving. But it is definitely like hard, like especially when you're like, because the crowd's like always changing and you're trying to figure out like who's that one person that I can connect with. And I know like for me, one thing I definitely enjoy doing, especially at IWAs, just running and just sitting next to like one of the random kids that's just not seeing, like they don't know, they never look, and they just run. I just sit next to them and put my arm around them and just like, yeah, it's the baby face thing. Like, check me out.
Yeah, that'll make that kid's day, and that kid will remember that for like a while. It's like, the wrestler sat next to me, and it's like the coolest thing ever when you're a little kid. It's like, oh my God, I got to sit next to one of these wrestlers. So they'll remember that. That's, you're creating a memory, and that's you can't put a price on that.
Yeah, and Dave actually, the first time Dave and I got to work, we were actually at HWT, and he ripped this kid's sign, this kid's picture, and like just walked off, right? And this kid had work to get an autograph. He ripped it right in front of him and just like walked away. And I remember like the kid was in tears. The dad was like talking trash to Dave. And so when I hit Dave with my move and like I got the 3 count on him, I remember looking at that kid, and that kid's face was so bright, so happy, and he was like laughing, but he was like also like just teeth and no eyes. Like I couldn't see, and that's how big his smile was. And I was like, yeah, he did that. I just got to help facilitate this kid's like want, and I thought it was pretty cool. And Dave told me too, like right before, he was like, this is gonna be a big moment for you, man. So just like make sure you just ham it up.
And that's why we're in this business, not because of money or whatever, but for those moments, for those special moments, when you make a kid's evening special, he's going to remember that, and he's going to remember you, and he's going to want to see you. He's going to want to see you again because he's going to want to relive that good memory. So you did a good thing there.
Yeah, it was cool too, because I remember like picking up Dave, and I was just like, "Say good night, Dave," and then the kid just like big grin. So, but then when I got to work with all you guys, like obviously like the next step kind of took over, and it was like, all right, so getting to see you, and then like you said, like you're always like in the crowd's face, like, no, don't do this, and then obviously like crowd's like gonna turn and do it. So I was kind of
tell them the opposite of what you want. Don't cheer for this guy. There's your hero now. Don't do this. I don't want to hear you boo, and hopefully they will, you know.
So I'm kind of curious, like you said you worked as a wrestler, and I'm kind of curious, like what's the worst bump you've taken?
Oh God. When I say worked as a wrestler, when I say I've wrestled in air quotes, because I guess technically I've wrestled, but it's like Jim Cornette wrestling or Bobby Heenan wrestling. It's supposed to be like, you're so bad. The worst move I've ever taken was a tombstone pile driver. And I remember I've taken 2 of them. The second one didn't look as bad, but it hurt more a few days later. The first one, and the guy is no longer in the business, KO Storm, he actually did a jumping, twisting tombstone. And I remember showing this to my wife, and like, Ma, it's like, Hap, look at this. This is so cool. And I showed it to her, and she literally punched me in the arm. And I'm like, why did you punch me? She's like, I thought you were going to kick out. Why did you show this to me? Don't ever show that to me again. I'm like, okay, I'm never going to show that to her again. So I've taken, yeah, the tombstone. I've taken 2 tombstone pile drivers. On Saturday, I took the bump into the buckle. That's an easy one. I guess the jumping tombstone would be the worst bump I've taken. Followed by the choke slam, because I've taken a choke slam, and thankfully the guy took care of me. So I got I got lucky that time. But the choke slam was not fun either.
Yeah,
that was in DCW.
Anybody who's followed this podcast long enough understands like I've worked on like choke slam bumps like so much after a certain incident, and yeah, we could talk about it post show.
Oh, okay.
So I'm kind of curious, like post like an event or like even a match or something, like do you have like that post match snack, post match meal that you have to have?
It used to be on the way home, I would stop at a McDonald's to treat myself to chicken nuggets or a cheeseburger or something like that. But lately, my diet has improved. It just kind of fell into it. It's not like I'm going to make my diet better or anything like that. It's just lately, it's like, while I was closer, I'll just get a roast beef and cheese on white bread. And that's better for you. And I used to be able to, my big meal used to be 9-piece chicken nuggets, large fries, vanilla shake, which bazillions of calories, But as I got older, my body couldn't handle it that well. So I'm like, you know what? There's a Wawa right here. I'll get roast beef and cheese with maybe like a Cinnabon. And I used to get like a donut as well. I'm like, now I can't even eat the donuts. Just roast beef and cheese and the Cinnabon with a coffee to keep me awake for the ride home.
Right. That's definitely important. I don't think a lot of people realize that, like, one that drives, that like people will drive. Because I know for me, going to, we'll just start out with, IWA, it's like a 2.5 hour drive, but there are times where I drive 4.5, 5 hours, like just for, like a 15-minute match, maybe not even less than that. It might be 8 to 10, but
yeah, you can call me a wimp or whatnot, but I drive 2.5 hours for DCW. And I do that gladly, but 2.5 hours, like 3 hours is my cutoff. Like I wouldn't drive farther than that just because it's not worth it. And I'm getting old, and I am off on Saturdays and I work on Sundays. I could switch the other way, but I don't like having to rush to a show. So it's like I take all of Saturday off so I can get to the show on time, no problem. But I always have to work on Sundays the next day. I always drive myself. I don't ever drive with anyone just because all the people I know live in Jersey or Delaware or nowhere near me. So it's like I never drive to the show with anyone. It's always me by myself. So I have to be careful to stay awake on the ride home, especially if it's like bad weather or something like that. But I've never totaled my car because of wrestling. But I have totaled my car. But you got to be careful because if you're driving, because I know this one guy, Ed House, I think, like fell asleep behind the wheel like years ago and messed himself up. But you got to be careful because you got to stay awake. Those long drives will kill you if you're not careful.
Yeah, and that's why it's always important. One thing I don't think a lot of people do, and you kind of said it yourself, right? Like just by circumstance, you can't really do it. But always grab people who are going to shows. Like it's always good. Run in a car 3 or 4 deep, and that way someone's always awake with the driver. Because I think that's very important. Because I always tell my friends, I'm like, yo, if you're my co-passenger, if you're in the passenger seat and you're asleep, I will throw water on you. I will make sure you wake up, because if I'm driving and I fall asleep, we are all in trouble. So you have to be awake too. Like, you don't want to sit in the passenger seat, get in the back.
No, what you should do is shave one eyebrow off if he falls asleep. Just one eyebrow.
Yeah, while we're going home. Just whatever.
Yeah, one eyebrow.
You'll learn your lesson, kid.
There you go. Welcome to the business, kid.
Welcome to the business. So I'm kind of curious, like what's been one of the hardest lessons that you've had to learn being in the business?
The hardest lesson is nothing is ever given to you. You have to just earn it. I mean, if you expect something, you can't expect something to actually happen. I mean, even if someone says something, don't expect it to actually happen until it actually happens. I'm not picking out any particular instance. I'm just saying that sometimes stuff happens. It's beyond your control, and you have to just learn to go with the flow. And I've learned that until it actually happens, it hasn't happened and it won't happen. Like I was just inducted into the DCW Hall of Fame. I wasn't expecting it to happen until it actually happened. I'm like, okay, something can go wrong or this or that or whatever. Like example, IWA, I was like all set for the second show. Then they canceled it and they lost the building or something like that. And I was like, man, I was so excited about this because they're bringing in all these guys. And they build, the main event for whatever, but stuff happens that's not in anyone's control. You can't control it. You have to go with the flow. So the hardest lesson I've learned is just go with the flow and just accept what you can, and don't be mad if something doesn't go the way you expect it to, because it's not necessarily anyone's fault.
I like that, and that's something like I've had to. I've just chosen to go with. I know my trainer has told me that like numerous times, just kind of like let things ride and just let the pieces fall where they may fall. And I think for me, it's just because like when I was in the military, like I knew like where I was gonna be, when I was gonna do it. Like here's all these lessons that you have to learn. Here's all the things that you have to hit, milestones that you have to hit. And like getting into pro wrestling, it's similar, but it's different because like you have like the structure, like you're supposed to know like, hey, these are the things that are going to be happening, like different shows and different booking. But after that, man, just kind of let it ride and just like enjoy the ride. More importantly.
Yeah, the best part is being creative. Like they give you the finish, and they give you this. Like me being a manager, I don't have too much say in the match, but I might throw an idea. Okay, what about if we do this or that? And I toss in an idea or two. And if they use that idea, that makes me feel good. Nothing makes me feel good as adding to a match or adding to a spot or improving something or just making someone look even better than they thought they would. So I like that, but just improving things makes me feel good.
Oh yeah, I love it too. And then like, I mean, you even had the idea where I was like, for those who don't know, throwing up a grenade and like adding to it by you ducking too, because obviously like that made sense. Like everybody needs to get down because there's a grenade being thrown in the ring.
Yes. And if I sell like a little bitch, like that has them laugh at me. I'm like, look at that little bitch, and they laugh at me, and they think I'm like more of a repulsive individual than I am. So,
so I'm kind of curious, what kind of advice would you give to like people who want to get into the business, like whether they're managing or they're refereeing?
Okay. High tolerance for pain. Have a good car that doesn't fall apart. Be ready to make no money at all, to spend lots of money on training, gas, food, tolls, etc. Don't look to make any kind of money at all. This is basically, you're putting money into this. It's nice when you come out ahead, but don't look to make any money at this. Look to have fun. Look to fulfill this as a passion. Like I said, I've been doing this for 11 years in the ring, and I can't say I've made like money doing this, but I have lots and lots and lots of great memories. So do it because you want to do it. Do it because you have a passion for it. Do it because you want to make the business, you want to make a mark in the business. You want to, I guess, improve it. You want to leave the business better than when you left it. So just do it because you want to and because you're passionate about it, not because I'll just try it, see what happens. Don't just try and lock. Be committed to it fully.
Yeah, I feel like that's just important in like life lessons as well. But yeah, be committed. And that's one thing like I hear a lot. And there's something I kind of requoted to one of the new students, right? Is that they were kind of nervous about like taking their first bump. And I was like, listen, if you just start thinking about things and just don't commit to it, you're going to get hurt. I was like, so just commit and just throw your body to the wind. And so they did. And they hit their first bump. And they're like, oh. And then I hear him go, I kind of like that. It's like, we'll do it again.
Here's a very, very quick mini story. When my trainer was like teaching us suplexes. Okay, Craig, I'm going to give you your first suplex. Okay, on the count of 3. 1, 2, boom. I'm like, where's 3? It's like, boom, hit me. I was like, ow. No, it's not that bad. Okay. But again, one of the reasons why I never became a wrestler is when I would take a suplex, I had a bad habit of spiking my heels. And that hurts. That hurts. So not so much the bump on the back is spiking the heels. I kept doing that a lot. So I can honestly say I would never be like a wrestler, just because one thing I respect about any wrestler out there is when you put the match together, it's like, okay, we'll do this. There's so many things to remember. I can't remember all that stuff. I mean, I remember a spot or two as a referee. a spot or two as a manager. I can't put that, like, if I was a referee and the wrestler said, okay, where are we? It's like, I don't remember. There's like, matches are really complicated. Anyone who says wrestlers are dumb or stupid, I want to smack across the face, because you got to be smart to remember all the stuff that you got to put together. It's okay to forget a spot or two, and nothing ever goes away. You exactly remember it, but there's a lot of stuff to remember. I mean, if you got to do a promo before the match, have the match, and do a promo after the match, that's a lot of stuff to remember.
Yeah, it really is. And I know, like, there are times where people will tell me, they're like, you look lost. I'm like, because I am.
Because you're trying to remember. You're trying to remember. If a civilian, I guess you say, goes into a locker room and just looks at the wrestlers, you'll think they're schizophrenic, because they're going through the matches in their heads. They're going like, okay, this, that, and you're like, what are you doing? It's like, I'm just going over the match, and because they're like, blah, 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 and you can see them going through the motions. And you look at them and are like, are you schizophrenic or something? Are you mental? What are you doing? It's like, no, that's how you remember the match. Then I do the same thing. I can see myself in the match going like this and going through the stuff in my head, because that's how you remember it. You know?
Yeah, I sit back and I'll call a match with the person, and then I go off to the side and I sit down, and then I just see myself like going through the match over and over and over again. And then, like, by the time we get out there, like, it falls apart disastrously, and I just do my best to listen to the person, because I'm like, yo, I hope you know what we're doing, because I kind of feel like you ever see that movie? What is it called? The Butterfly Effect.
Butterfly.
Yeah.
One change messes everything up. Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like that part where, like, Ashton Kutcher, like, has a flash, and then that's the next spot, and then he doesn't know what happened in between. I'm like, That's me, probably like 2/3 of the match. Just like, oh, there's this spot. And I'm like trying to figure out, like, how did we get here? Like, oh yeah, it's this spot.
Well, the beauty of that is that the fans don't know when you mess up.
Right.
You can make it look good. As long as the fans don't know you messed up, then you didn't mess up.
Exactly. And that's why I think I pride myself on being able to, like, to listen really well to, like, other veterans and stuff like that, just because I'm just like, yo, like, just, if you know exactly where we are, just guide me through, and I'll barely hear you, but I just instantly hit whatever you're, like, asking me to hit. So it kind of works out. And that's why I'm glad, I'm grateful to be around, like, a lot of the talent that I am, because, like, obviously I've only been in for just over 2 years, and so just to be able to listen to people and just kind of absorb everything really quickly, and then just react as, like, this, it makes it easy for me to just follow.
2 years now, that explains that green tinge to your skin.
Yeah, 100%. Like, there's no secret to it. So I'm kind of curious, you've been around, like, a lot of different locker rooms, so what I do need is one do and one don't of the locker room.
Okay, one do, always shake everyone's hand. Always shake everyone's hand and be respectful. One don't is, don't interrupt any deep conversations. If you see they're having a deep conversation, just wait. Wait until they stop talking before you go and talk to them. Or even when you introduce yourself, wait until they're done talking, especially the veterans. If they're going over the match, wait until they're done talking before you approach them.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. But those are all my heavy hitting questions, but we do got to get into the second best segment of this podcast. And you're probably wondering, what's the first? It's the Red Dogs Power Rankings that you can find every Sunday on our debate show. So you guys go check those out. But Mr. Craig, this is the 3 Count Podcast 10 Count Questions. This is how it works. I'm going to fire off 10 questions at you rapid fast. And whatever's your answer, that's your answer.
So it's whatever comes into my head.
Yep, whatever comes in your head.
Okay.
So we're going to put on the imaginary timer for added pressure. Bing.
I see it.
Here we go. SmackDown or Raw?
Raw.
Favorite movie?
Princess Bride.
Let's go. Sonic or Mario?
Mario.
Favorite color?
Red.
X-Men or the Avengers?
Avengers.
Favorite submission?
Figure 4.
TikTok or Instagram?
God. TikTok.
There you go. All Instagram lovers. He'll give you his handles in a little bit.
I don't do any of those. So.
Everybody on social media now. Favorite podcast?
Something to wrestle with.
Yes, let's go. Nominate one person that you want to see on this podcast.
God. Dave Brower from he has his own podcast. I'd like to see him on your podcast.
Okay. And then last but not least, my favorite question to ask every single person who comes on this podcast, favorite curse word.
Fuck.
A good F-bomb is what you need in this life.
This is true. This is true.
I tell people I'm trying to get this video to go re-viral again, but it's called The History of the F Word. I think it's like the greatest 2 minutes and 39 seconds that anybody could experience anywhere.
Okay.
So I'll definitely send you a link so that way you can enjoy it just as much as I do.
I'd be curious, yes.
But those are all my questions I have. So the last thing I need to ask is, Mr. Craig, can you let our listeners and our viewers know where they can find you?
Okay, well, you can find me on Facebook under just my name, Craig Prendergast. I mean, honestly, there's a Craigslist listing on Facebook, but I never, ever use it. I don't know how to delete it because I'm pretty much computer illiterate. I don't do TikTok. I don't do Instagram. I won't do any of that stuff. Just look for me on Facebook under my name, Craig Prendergast. That's where you can hit me up if you want to book me for refereeing, managing, whatever. I don't do photography anymore. That's kind of not fun anymore for me. But I'll referee or I'll manage if I have an open date and if the money's right and if I just want to work for the promotion. So you can find me Facebook.
There you go. He gave you where you can find him on Facebook. So you know what that means. It's like every good part of a wrestling match. We got to take it home. Because this is the 3 Count Podcast presents Now Entering. And like I said, I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up this mountain called wrestling.
Here,
and as your...
The pen's up. That means go home.
And as your Sherpa, it's never about me because I need to have my own Sherpa who can be there, who's been there, done that, and can do it more efficiently than I can. So, you know, you see him right next to me. He's right there. It's Craig Z. Listen, you guys know what to do. Tune into the next episode and be there, or you just wait for this episode to end. You wait for that outro, and then you choose another episode to listen to.
Who would be better than me?
Because who knows?
Who would be better than me?
What's going on, 3 Count Nation? I'm Clifford Red Dog Miller with the catchphrase. But what I really want you to do right now, go to twitter.com, right? Go over there, find us at the 3count_pod, give us a follow, give us a like, give us a comment. We want to talk to you guys. Go to IG at the 3 Count Pod. Give us a like, give us a follow, leave us a comment. We want to interact with you. Go to youtube.com, give subscribe, turn the bell on, turn the notifications, leave a comment. We want to talk to you. Go to anchor.fm/the 3 Count Podcast, and in there, you can leave us a message, and we will talk to you. Basically, what I'm trying to tell you is that we want to talk to you. We want to have fun with you guys, and we love listening to what you guys have to say. Also, one thing I need you to do for me, the 3 Count Podcast also has merchandise. At ProWrestlingTees.com/the 3 Count Pod. Please go buy our t-shirts. We love you guys, and we hope you love us too. So show us some support, please.